If you were to mark the most important phase for Ethereum in the next couple of months, what would it be?
I think the launch of a public testnet. A public multi-client testnet, 7 implementations interoperating, all of those things. Because that's going to basically prove that Ethereum 2.0 can function as a fully functioning live network. And the things that we've seen so far, like we have different, in single client testnets, we've had different clients, some agreeing with each other, we've had consensus tests, we've had a lot of different things happening, but that next milestone would really be the one that kind of puts everything together. And that's something that we haven't seen yet. And I think once that happens, then a lot more people will be able to see that, like, hey, Ethereum 2.0 is real.
And we can see a very comparable growth in network in DeFi, or open finance. This was in November of 2018 with the 4 major applications that we call DeFi applications. A handful of users making transactions between protocols, not too much economic activity, but we can start to see the early beginnings of a financial layer inside of the internet. And it explodes. This is just 6 or 7 months later in May of 2019. The same 4 protocols starts to grow a lot more in volume, liquidity, transactions. And then this was just last month. 8 protocols here in this image. Endless permutations of transactions going between this financial layer, this internet of value. But not only is it horizontal, but it's also vertical. The Ethereum ecosystem is a financial system, and finance stratifies.
Is all of this useful, right? Like, what kinds of things are we trying to accomplish with all of this? So a big part of the answer comes in what Andreas talked about yesterday in the morning, when he talked about this idea that at some point blockchain technology, just in terms of its usability, is going to reach parity with traditional systems. And when that happens, then suddenly a lot of things, like, instead of the question being, well, why should this be on a blockchain? In some cases, the question will be, well, why not put this on the blockchain?
But do you think the world is ready? People.
Has the world ever been ready for anything new that's come? Was the world ready for the internet? Was the world ready for cars? Was it ready for high-speed trains? And I think to some extent, humanity has got to roll with the punches and enjoy the massively uplifting benefits.
And so in future versions of Uniswap, they're going to allow you to go from any token to any token. And I'm willing to bet that the next most popular token after Ether is going to be DAI, which is basically just Ether in its stabilized form.
Softly. So validator rewards. Right now, there's been a few economic models that have been pushed out by a few groups, which have sort of estimated the kind of incentive award for developers, at least, or validators that participate on ETH 2.0 to be at quite a low percentage. Can you talk us through some of the economics as it stands and the distribution over time?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of misconceptions there. So, like, for example, there's people throwing around the 1% statistic, and in reality, right, the maximum reward is 1.7% per year, only in the case where, like, pretty much literally everyone is staking. And so in the case where a smaller number of validators is staking, the rewards go up quite a bit, right? So, like, for example, if you go down from 100 million ETH to 10 million ETH, then we're talking about dropping from 1.7% to around something like 5.5%.
Okay.
Go down to 1 million ETH, it goes up to 17%. And then on top of that, there's like some fraction of fees that you would get. And so all to get, like, it's going to hit an equilibrium. And I guess it's important to kind of keep in mind that, like, the goal of proof of stake is ultimately to kind of minimize the costs of keeping the blockchain in consensus. And so, no, we're not going to have numbers that are just a giveaway to anyone who's willing to lock their ETH up in a box for a few weeks.
Sure.
And so here's DeFi, total value locked, denominated in Ether, compared to total value of Ether. It's almost all Ether. The reason why DeFi exists is because of the value of Ether.
scaling. And the goal here is to improve scalability, to increase the number of transactions that can happen on the network, and to increase it to a level that seems like it's something that you can start working with to kind of power parts of the global economy, right? 15 transactions a second is not it. Here, we're talking about potentially tens of thousands of transactions per second, and arguably that's still not enough, but it's it's a major stepping stone, and it's something that can be combined with other technology and other improvements later on, hopefully to actually allow us to get there. And now, I definitely don't think that there's anything like a kind of death match between Libra and existing crypto systems, as like some people like to say, because like Libra has something that existing blockchains don't, which is existing access to 2.5 billion users, and existing crypto systems have something that Libra doesn't, which is a kind of credible claim to commercial and political neutrality. And that's something that anything developed by kind of centralized institutions is just fundamentally not going to have. And it's something that in the crypto space has a unique chance of providing.
So here's our old model, where everyone has to ask permission because the central banks captured all the gold. And now we flipped it on its head, where Ether is this permissionless store of value, and we allow for permissionlessness to work its way up the stack.
Henceforth, the legend says that Vitalik never played World of Warcraft again. Well, Blizzard just announced that they're bringing back and relaunching World of Warcraft, or WoW Classic. So my question is, are you going to re-roll your characters and maybe make ETH a second priority for a bit?
I mean, if like World of Warcraft moves onto Ethereum, I'll consider it. Do they want to?
You heard it here, folks.